Let's take a look at the big story that we are tracking at this hour. The maximum city is all set to swelter in severe heat for the third consecutive day today. Now, according to the IMD forecast, the temperature is likely to go up to 40 degrees Celsius under the severe heat wave conditions. Now, in the wake of this particular heat wave that we are talking about, the Mumbai civic body has issued an advisory asking citizens to stay safe and hydrated. Now, remember, Mumbai is recording unusually high temperatures in the month of March, with the mercury really climbing to record highs. My colleague Abhishek now joins me live on the broadcast. Abhishek, you've been taking us through this heat wave that Mumbai is witnessing. This is the third day that we are talking about. What is the situation like? And is the climate change that we've been constantly talking about a lot to do with this?
Yeah. Griha, definitely this is the third consecutive day, or I would add to it, this is the fifth day, because right from Saturday, the condition were started, the temperature started increasing, and on Monday, it was when the advisory was issued by the IMD of a severe heat wave. Now, it is today, what is expected is definitely yesterday also, it almost touched 40 degree, and today also it has been said that it will rise up to 40 degree, and what has been predicted, it might get gradually come down in the next few days. Where I am standing right now, you can see I am at Bhandup. And speaking about the climate change, you can see at my left, these are the mangroves which are very much important when we talk about mitigation of climate action plan. And at the same time, towards my right, I'll tell my cameraman to pan and show you. These are the salt pan which are very eminently required in the situation when there are floodings, because when water comes, these are the pans which accumulate the water, and they kept in them, so that the flooding can be avoided. So these are the two crucial areas in the city of Mumbai. We are presently in Bhandup, and these are the two important things which I have shown you, which are importantly required for the mitigation of climate change. And to highlight about why there was a sudden change in the climate, is it a climate change effect? We are joining by Mr. Stalin Danan, who is a prominent environmentalist of Mumbai. He will explain us what exactly went on because of the rising temperature. Sir, can you add on to it?
Climate change is a global phenomena. Every place in Asia will get hotter and hotter. That is, we know that for sure. The question is whether Mumbai is doing the right things. We need to understand that. So when climate change, when you talk of climate change, it is a severe change in weather, and nature is trying to tell us something. But nature also gives us the defenses, like you said just now, the mangroves and the salt pans. These are integral to the city existence actually. If without these, we will have a terrible problem. Because of these vast expanses of mangroves and the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, the RA forest, all these things are trying to keep the Mumbai's temperatures down. Otherwise, you can imagine this will be worse than Dubai. So we have to take care of these things when we talk about climate change mitigation. Now what is happening is that if you look at the city, the rest of the city, it is completely concretized. And because of which the entire city is getting hotter and hotter. The roads are actually just generating more heat. There is no mud left to absorb the heat, where you can't see mud anywhere in the city. So then it remains all these patches which I spoke about to come and help us. But what we need is more trees, more tree cover, more shade, which is not provided. And also, when municipal corporation is putting out its own action plan, they have made a document. It is a internet research document. It has very little connectivity with the reality on the ground. For example, when their corporation gives permissions for buildings, etc., they are supposed to ensure that there's enough sufficient wind flow, there is enough space, open spaces between buildings. Those things are not followed. If you see, it's very haphazardly developed. And now people's immediate response today, because of we can afford it, everyone goes and starts their air conditioner in their house. The more the air conditioners are used, the more the heat is generated outside. Inside your house, it's cool. Outside, it's getting hotter and hotter. So we are just going on continuously heating up the atmosphere around us. So we are going to get into more trouble.
Kriya, also I'm asking on the national perspective, because there are various other cities which don't have a coastal connect. Mumbai having a coastal connect facing such a huge issue, you can imagine what would be the different to these cities, urban cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, and other urban cities. Sir, what would you like to say on that? Because they don't have any coastal connect to have a relief, sir.
Yeah. The cities which are landlocked, which do not have sufficient forests or sufficient mangroves around their areas, they are going to get very hard to live in. In fact, Chennai would be terrible in the coming years. Like you mentioned, Hyderabad is another city. Even Delhi, for that matter of fact, again, it is locked in from all sides. The fundamental thing which people need to do is to understand that we need to wake up. We have for last 25 years we are talking of improving the forest cover. Forest cover will not improve by showing grasslands and sugarcane fields as forests. You have to actually protect your forest and increase natural forest. Every forest is different in every geological location, geographical location when we talk about. Where the forest of Western Ghats itself has so many variations. So we need, if we are talking of climate change, the first thing I would say is to improve your forest cover. There is no running away from it. You have to keep forests intact and improve on the forest. Without that, all this talk, going to summits and clapping for each other and coming out with some statement and photo ops, this does not help mankind. We are in a real bad situation. People need to wake up and say no to touching our forests. That is a starting point.
Griya, definitely very important advice
Yes.
has been given. And what we can understand is we should not just talk, we should walk the talk to mitigate these climate changes. Back to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Abhishek. Very, very critical comments that are coming from Mr. Stalin Dayanand over there. And he is also critical of the climate action plan that has just been released by the Maharashtra government. To discuss more about that, I'm also now joined on the broadcast by Mr.
Yes.
Vimalendu Jha, who's also an environmentalist. Mr. Jha, thank you so much for joining me on Mirror Now. Now, very important points that have been made on the broadcast so far. But first things first, this is the third consecutive day. Temperatures almost 40 degrees in Mumbai. What is the possible reason? Why this sudden change in the climate and the temperatures? And this is just the March month that we're talking about.
See, we need to understand that this is not a sudden change. It's not as if we did not know that this is happening. If you look at several IPCC reports, several climate change reports, one that actually the sixth assessment report that came just 2 weeks ago, it clearly talks about that this is going to happen. So there's no element of surprise in the situation that Mumbai is facing today, or for that matter, several other metros are going to face. And I should also tell you that today we're talking about heat wave, we will talk about drought. If you look at the IPCC report, that also clearly talks about the amount of rainfall, single day rainfall that Mumbai is going to face is going to be really, really bad. So, Mumbai is almost like a hotbed of climate change. All the predictions that we've had since almost 10 to 15 years with regard to IPCC reports and several other climate change reports, it clearly puts Mumbai on high alert on every front, be it heat wave, be it drought, be it this entire wet bulb phenomena, which is about heat and humidity, and it's a huge risk. So, generally IPCC report talks about loss to GDP and loss to life. And imagine Mumbai being the actual financial capital of our country and almost being a coastal town or a coastal metro is really going to bear the brunt of climate change in a very, very big way. Loss to life, loss to livelihood. And it's very, very important that we don't have just these plans developed by our respective governments, but actual action on the ground. As Stalin was talking about, that we need to really take a few steps back and look at what is the cause of this climate change. It's not a one-day phenomena. It's not something that happened last weekend that has caused Mumbai to heat up today. It's something that we've been systematically doing wrong that has actually brought Mumbai and several other cities and our country and therefore our planet onto this situation.
Right. Vimalendu, we will come to the climate action plan when it comes to Mumbai. But when we talk about these the inclusive and robust mitigation and adaptation strategies which are required to be actually put on ground, we have to also understand this particular IPCC report that you're talking about. Do you think that Mumbai has been taken by surprise? Because we were looking at something like this particular heat wave in the near future. We did not really expect this future to come this sooner. I mean, this is just March, like I said, we are talking about 40 degrees already. So do you think more things need to be done on ground and, at a much hasty speed for that matter?
Absolutely. So, adaptation is a very, very convenient word. Right now, we need more of mitigation. We need to really look at things that we need to do to stop this actual rise that we're talking about. Also, IPCC report indeed talks about end of century phenomena or 2050 phenomena, but it always means that it's actually a build-up. There will be smaller events, and by 2050 or by the end of the century, situation is going to be extremely, extremely bad. As in, unsurvivable is what the IPCC report talks about in terms of Mumbai. So we need to really, the government needs to think that it's not just about fine, if it's 40 degrees, let's adapt to it. No, we will have to mitigate. We will have to look at our green cover. We will have to look at our energy consumption. We will have to look at our mobility in these cities. We need to look at those hotspots that actually cause this kind of emission that gradually, in a local way, creates a heat trap or a heat zone.
So Vimalendu, like quickly, 3 points that are a must to implement right now so that we can actually deal with this heat wave that we are looking at. 3 quick points that people can actually do and adapt in their personal lives and not really wait for the government to actually put forth those changes as part of a rule.
See, right now, there can only be short-term measures. There can be only something that people can do today. As in, there's nothing that people can do today that will actually change Mumbai's temperature within 6 hours or 16 hours in a sense. It's only about protecting yourself, living indoors. But the government needs to really have a 6 months to a 6 years to a 60-year plan with regard to heat mitigation and climate change mitigation. And that's where the actual crux of this entire action plan needs to be seen. Of course, citizens will have to really look at their own carbon footprint, use of public transport, looking at lower waste generation. We're talking about several landfills that are actually emission hotbeds in Mumbai. The one in Devnar, for example, has been crossed. It has crossed its lifespan and still been emitting all kinds of toxic gases. So we need to have a municipal plan, we need to have a local plan, we need to have a state plan, and we need to have a national plan, short term, medium term, and long term.
Right, Vimalendu, thank you so much for all those important points that you've made. Very, very important things that have been, pointed out over here and during the course of this particular discussion. And Mumbai really needs to step up, and not just Mumbai, but the entire country in the wake of the growing heat wave that we are seeing. And this is only the month of March, remember, that we're talking about. On that note, we are slipping into a very short break here on